Hello, and welcome once again. J76NY here, and we are continuing our playthrough of Suzerain Rizia. We are King Romus Taurus of Rizia. Last episode, in particular, we had a meeting with the douche Victor Smolak of Wayland about the Zeal situation. It was a pretty consequential meeting in which we rejected any offers that that guy had to put forth. They were mostly one-sided, and I don't think that Rizia would have benefited at all from accepting his offer. And I don't trust him, and I don't like him. They did a really good job of making his character hard to like. So I did scroll through the news a little bit. This is talking about that meeting. After the meeting behind closed doors in Porte Drazon, His Majesty King Romus Taurus and Wayland, President Victor Smolak announced that they had failed to reach an agreement regarding the return of Zeal, which is now nearly 1 year overdue. Sources say that President Smolak was simply demanding too much of Rizia and that His Majesty wisely saw through what was an obvious grab for increased power and influence within southern Mercopa. Then the Geopolitico... Swordland welcomes Anton Rain as its new president, ushering in an era of anticipated transformation amidst economic trials. Rain's swift political climb is emblematic of the electorate's yearning for reform and economic revitalization. His approach to governance, potentially a cocktail of innovation and traditionalism, will be pivotal in navigating Swordland through its recessionary phase. The Watchtower Human Rights has expressed its worry about the increased crackdowns by Wesek officials in Zeal. Let's see. Arcasia's economic growth slows to 5%. Future Zeal region still in limbo. Nearly a year past the date when Zeal was supposed to return to Rizia, the future ownership of the resource-rich region remained unclear. President Victor Smolak's invocation of the AN... I think I already read this. Yeah, I already read some of these. One thing I want to do before we get started is I want to see if I can build some tanks. I don't have enough resources. Got lots of infantry. There, we'll get some support vehicles going. Rain. There we go. Alright, now on to the business we have here. Reports are emerging that Wayland has started implementing a system of segregation between Rizian and Wesek citizens, with large-scale events often only accessible to one ethnic group. Additionally, it's becoming increasingly clear that while Rizians have had their freedom severely limited since the bombing, Weseks have barely been affected. Alright. I thought there was something else, but apparently not. We do have a major meeting here, the gathering of the MITZ board member states, so let's go to that. The thrum of helicopter blades was almost deafening as we prepared for our descent into the Meftiam International Trade Zone. I looked out the window. We were above the Meftiam Basin, an expansive dried-up lake containing millions of years' worth of sedimentary deposits. The past decade of industrial activity had turned into a mosaic of underground and open-pit mines, linked by roads, railways, and makeshift canals. Smoke rose from the surrounding refineries, turning the sky a musty shade of orange. My eyes followed a cargo-laden freight train as it departed the Meftian station. Next to me in the helicopter, Elena noticed it as well. One of Lespia's, by the looks of it. The gold will be shipped out of the Mordian port and reach Vino Robin by this evening. Lespia, eh? I hope Prime Minister Alvarez remembers I took his side at the AN. And from there, straight into Prime Minister Alvarez's pocket. If you're not familiar with Suzerain style of gameplay, it is a multiple choice, choose your own adventure type of role-playing game. Each choice you make has consequences for your playthrough and the direction your character takes. Some of these are more consequential than others. Hope he remembers I took his side. I'm sure he hasn't forgotten, but he will be expecting you to follow up on your words with action today. And because of the way I recorded these episodes, I'll be damned if I can remember what that was. Are you ready for today's meeting? I know neither of us wants Morella's nationalization plan to succeed. Do not assume that, Miss Warner. I am approaching the task with an open mind. Morella's wish carry weight, but we can't ignore the ITZ's great importance to our kingdom. Indeed not. Not about to let the Malianivists steamroll over our economic interest. An understatement, Miss Warner. My recent talk with President Smolak made it clear that we must protect our remaining gold at all costs. We should listen to Morella's concerns, of course, but no, we simply cannot hand over our assets on a platter. We hit a rough patch of air as we continued our descent. I felt the gold disc in my suit pocket bump against my side. By the way, didn't you mention back in Qualis that you were an expert on antique coins? She adjusted her hair with a proud smile. Why, yes, Your Majesty. You remember more about that night than I do. They were all drunk, in case you missed it. I showed her the disc Rusty had given me. Her eyes widened in glee. That's no coin, Your Majesty. It's a Resonant-era Rucus prayer medallion. It was originally worn around one's neck with the intention of keeping St. Ruhek's teaching close to your heart at all times. How much do you think it's worth? Could be thousands. Very old and very rare. We gently touched down on the helipad of the Corporation Center, the building where ITZ board meetings and other diplomatic functions were held. We were immediately met by a large security retinue and ushered inside to the reception hall where the welcome ceremony was to take place. Alma Santana greeted us by the entrance. A security staff member showed Elena to her seat while I followed the Morellan Prime Minister to the front of the hall. Thank you for coming, Mr. Torres. Madam, there we go. For your place. He smiled politely. Excuse me, Your Majesty, we no longer use such titles in this country. I was sorry to hear you were unable to reach an agreement with Wayland. I'm confident today's talks will go more smoothly. Thank you, Prime Minister Sultana. The support of the international community means a lot to us at this time. As you see, my kingdom is not desperate. I will reject any so-called solution that does not benefit the Rizian people. Yes, I'm sure you're disappointed that I didn't kowtow to your communist crony. I'm gonna say it's a little bit on the nice side here. I hope you all understand that I'm not able to offer my public support, not yet at least. She gestured for me to follow her. I'd like to start straight away, but my advisors have persuaded me that diplomatic protocols must be followed. The stage has been set up, backdropped by our country's 4 flags. Patricio Alvarez was already sitting there, looking somewhat bored. I took my place next to him. He didn't acknowledge me. I won't acknowledge him either. I noticed a certain bleariness in his eyes. I wondered whether his decision to quit drinking had lasted. The hall began to fill with dignitaries, ministers, and heads of corporations. Rusty Montoro was in the back row, talking animatedly to a lesbian politician. He broke off his conversation to throw me a wink. The doors to the hall suddenly swooshed open. Merrick Hagel entered, accompanied by a pair of bodyguards. He and Prime Minister Sultana exchanged cheek kisses. Alvarez could barely disguise his look of scorn. Look at those two, as cozy as peas in a pod. Reminds me of you and a certain Duke of Palais. You may kiss me if you'd like, Mr. pal. As long as Rizia and Lespia put up a united front, we got nothing to worry about. He gave a curt nod before turning back towards the cameras. Sultana and Hegel joined us on stage. The Valgslandian Chancellor frowned sternly as he shook my hand. Glad that you made it. It's time we settled this silly debate. Let's talk in private. That very much depends, Mr. Taurus. 4 of us posed for photographs. The Morellan national anthem was played, then those of Valgsland, Rizia, and finally Lespia. That shows who takes priority, doesn't it? Just a ceremony, Mr. Alvarez. Don't read too much into it. When the music died down, we were escorted to a conference room together with our key ministers, security detail, and a number of legal advisors. Once we were seated, Prime Minister Sultana spoke. Thank you for carving out time of your schedules to join me here today, gentlemen. Over 35 years ago, our country signed an agreement regarding the shared resources in the Meftiam Basin. At that time, Morella was capable neither of exploring the full potential of the gold located here nor fending off raids from our Dirdian neighbors. It was only with the cooperation of Rizia, Valgsland, and Lespia that the international trade zone could become the thriving industrial center it is today. However, our predecessors failed to recognize the social and moral responsibility that comes with such an economic endeavor, and Morella paid the price. I beg to differ, Miss Sultana. Whether at home or abroad, the Kingdom of Rizia has always been committed to responsible mining practice. Not exactly true. I'll just stay silent. All of us, Morella included, have benefited from a contract that allows us to pay ITZ workers less and grant them fewer protections than our individual home countries. At the same time, the area around the trade zone has been turned into a dumping ground for toxic chemicals, to the detriment of our water system and the people who depend on them. There is only one way forward. The ITZ must be restored to Morellan ownership. Alvarez audibly scoffed. Is this actually what you believe, Miss Sultana? Or are you just parroting the words of Chancellor Hegel? I don't know here. This could erupt pretty bad if I'm not careful. I'm going to go the safe route and keep my mouth shut. I understand that you are not happy with Morella's new direction, Mr. Alvarez, but please don't discount my agency as Prime Minister. The current cooperation between Morella and Valgsland is based on mutual respect. There is no string pulling. That mutual respect shouldn't impact the shared objective of the trade zone. Every nation here should be treated with equal regard. Yes, Mr. Alvarez. Not every international relationship is as one-sided. What would it take for Rizia and Morella to achieve such cooperation? Oh, geez. I've seen the way you two look at each other. There's more than just mutual respect going on. We'll go with that one. If the nations of Rizia and Lespia are willing to listen to my wishes, I have every intention of returning the favor. Chancellor Hegel and I have begun work on a proposal to transfer ownership of the ITZ to the Morellan state. The assets currently owned by Valgsland, Rizia, and Lespia would be purchased by a new Morellan-owned company formed specifically for the governance of the ITZ. Each country would then have the opportunity to buy shares in that company. The Republic of Valgsland has already agreed to forego that opportunity. Should Rizia and Lespia choose to buy shares, they could still continue operations in some capacity, albeit under strict oversight and with more input from workers. You must understand that I have Rizia's own interests to think about. If I am to agree to such proposal, I have to know that our economy will remain stable. That in your way? Hold up. Well, no, I needed something moved out of his way, so I had to do that. It's not my goal to bankrupt any of you. We're willing to make individual agreements with each. My God, stakeholder. I wasn't yawning until I started playing this game, and I'm not bored by this game at all. Just don't get that impression. Every time I try and play this game, I start yawning uncontrollably, which is weird because I really do enjoy this game. Maybe I should stop trying to say everything in one breath. Wait. Should we vote to proceed with the proposal, I'd solicit your input. And if we vote not to proceed, what then? Then we'll have to go back to the drawing board. In the case of a split decision, we would have to renegotiate the initial ITZ agreement until a way forward is found. Sounds like stalling tactics we could be using here. Morella will no longer accept status quo, nor will Valgsland. Well, Lespia stands firm in our conviction that the ownership of the ITZ should not change, and I suspect His Majesty King Romus feels the same way. Everyone at the table turned to look at me. Elena cleared her throat. Are you ready for the vote, Your Majesty? I'd like to confer with you, Miss Werner. Absolutely, Your Majesty. Take all the time you need. That's nice of her. We'll set up a separate room for you. The rest of us can break for coffee. What about me? I need some coffee. Before we continue, Your Majesty, I do think Mr. Montoro should be privy to this conversation as well. Yeah. Let's bring Rusty in. Lena nodded as an aide sent for Rusty. A few minutes later, he appeared. Looking like a fat Richie Cunningham. Your Majesty, Elena, have you tried Morella and Sukar biscuits yet? They're drier than a letter from my ex-wife's divorce attorney. Charming. We're here to talk about biscuits, are we? Because as far as I'm concerned, the nationalization debate doesn't merit a discussion. King Romus here is the leader of the country. If he says a discussion is necessary, then it is. My sincerest apologies to you both. I was just joking. John Goodman, that's who he looks like. A ginger John Goodman. This is not a topic to approach lightly, Rusty. I'll thank you to take it more seriously. Okay. Elena nodded in agreement, then glanced up at the clock. We don't have long. Where would you like to begin? What will the economic and financial impacts on Rizia if Morella goes through with the nationalization plan? That depends on the exact nature of the agreement, doesn't it? Even if Rizia buys back its former share of the ITZ, Morella's planned regulations will limit the revenue we can earn from it. But by privately negotiating the proposal terms with Prime Minister Sultana, we may yet be able to make an arrangement where we come out relatively unscathed. That'd be a real risk, Your Majesty. RRG already almost went belly up after we lost Zeal. Thanks to you, we didn't have to waste money on needless safety regulations, but still, nationalization could be a killing blow. At the same time, we are facing the usual high gold demand from Rumberg. With little in the way of gas holdings, it would be difficult for Rizia to carry on as a resource-based economy. I didn't know the situation was this grave. Not grave yet, but we should refrain from making rash promises. Nationalization doesn't seem reasonable to me. What's your opinion? The nationalization agreement doesn't seem beneficial on the surface, but I can see a few possible perks. Lena, how could you? I'm not saying I support this plan, only that it need not be a disaster for us. Any nationalization plan will still need Rizia's support to go through. That means we'll be in a position to make demands. What we lose in gold, we could gain by making a good energy deal, for example. Huh? Sounds like I've got my money on the wrong resource. An energy deal would be better long-term solution than relying on gold mining in a foreign country. That's not really bad. I think I'm going to go with that one, actually. As long as we have energy to offer, that is. There's one other possibility. She lowered her voice. We not only buy back Rizia's share of the MITZ, we purchase Lespia's out from under them. Ooh. Devious. That is a plan I can get behind. Push Lespia out of the ITZ and increase our gold returns while we're at it. Great idea. Might not be worth the short-term hit to our finances. It's just a thought, Your Majesty. And that's it. You sure about that, Your Majesty? I'm very happy to talk more about the long-term negative impact of nationalization. No, we've taken enough time here. We should reconvene with the others. All right. You know what to do, Your Majesty. He motioned for the guards to escort him out of the reception hall. We headed back to the conference room and settled back into our seats. Actually, now I have a few questions for the board. Alvarez quietly groaned in frustration. Sultana bowed her head. I still want to know why Valgsland is only supporting nationalization now. Why didn't you hand your ITZ stake back to Morella right after the revolution? I'm sorry, Prime Minister Sultana, but I still don't see how the benefit of nationalization outweigh the drawbacks, especially where Rizia is concerned. Let's talk about the river pollution. If the nationalization vote does not pass, would you still be willing to address the complaints Prime Minister Sultana has made? Throw it in Patricio's court. I would just like to point out what a towering achievement it is that the ITZ exists in the first place. 4 countries with 4 vastly different governments coming together for the economic benefit of all. Sounds preposterous, yet it works. The cooperation and, yes, competition involved in sharing this valuable resource has not only brought our nations closer together, it's spurred innovation far beyond what any of us could achieve individually. We could harness that same spirit to address the very valid concerns Ms. Sultana has brought up about the environment and human rights. Or we could throw all that away, scare off investors, and put God knows how many people out of work, because why exactly? To score a few points with our Eastern comrades? Sultana and Hegel both had icy stares on their face. But you would not be willing to decrease Lespia's profit share. You are doing Morella a disservice by resorting to such gross oversimplifications. A nice thought, but I have a hunch that as long as Lespia keeps its stake in ITZ, sustainability will always come second to profit. There, we'll go with that one. Exactly. All of us care about improving conditions here. Whatever is decided today, I am willing to work with both Rizia and Lespia. Our differing outlooks shouldn't get in the way of peaceful compromise. I'm ready to move forward. Actually not. I still want to know why Valgsland is only supporting nationalization now. Why not after the revolution? A valid question, Mr. Torres. Valgsland's socialist values indeed took a backseat to economic stability in the early years of our republic. That says a lot about your socialism, doesn't it? We had to put socialism on the back seat to keep our economy up and running. But now, fuck it. But more importantly, the prior leaders of Morella could not be trusted to manage the ITZ with compassion and consideration. Giving away our stake then would have done more harm than good. How do you want to see this show going? I trust Mrs. Sultana's coalition to develop a system in which the miners themselves have a greater say in operations. I'm prepared to help them develop it myself if necessary. What happens if Miss Sultana's government gets overthrown or corrupted? She's untested. Precisely right, Your Majesty. There's no reason to believe Morella can run the ITZ better than our corporations. The Chancellor can dress up his actions however he pleases, but his support of Morella is nothing but a transparent attempt to regain Valgsland's foothold in South Mercopa. Countries can support one another for reasons beyond their own political and financial gain, you know. We could try and play these guys off against each other and go with this. You know, try it, see what happens. Come on, Your Majesty. The presence of the CSP here in Morella about bodes worse for you than it does for me. The CSP has no involvement in what's happening here. Miss Sultana is merely standing up for the rights of her own countrymen and women. Is she? Then let me hear it from her own mouth. Miss Sultana, can you confirm you have no interest in joining the Contanan Security Pact? She looked defiant. Our struggle for control of the ITZ is connected with the worldwide struggle against a system that prioritizes capital gains over human welfare. That's all I will say. I still don't see how the benefits of nationalization outweigh the drawbacks. If one only measures benefits in terms of profits, then yes, I admit our proposition is hardly advantageous. With that said, centralizing the ITZ and restructuring its operations with a view towards sustainability will serve us all well in the long run, as will fostering goodwill between the nations of Rizia and Morella. We are historical allies. Goodwill is vague. Are you talking about a trade agreement, military alliance? I'm open to discussion, Your Majesty. Ooh, Hagel looked disgruntled. Morella is only now embracing its full potential, Miss Sultana. Saddling yourself to a monarchy will only make you weaker. You know, if my goal was to play these guys off against each other, it's kind of working. It's true that King Romus has not given us any reason to trust him thus far. But if he votes for nationalization, I would give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to talk about river pollution. Let's move forward. And by move forward, you mean... I would still like to confer with my treasurer before casting my official vote. Alvarez sighed audibly. Prime Minister Sultana nodded. Didn't we already do this? You guys are drinking more coffee without me? Come on. Before continuing, what? Oh, come on. We already went through this. Alright, well, I guess we'll go through it again. I'll just go through it real quick. Hopefully I... Oh, alright, well, let's go. I'm ready to proceed with the vote. I think that was probably some type of bug. Sultana motioned to her secretary to take notes. We will use an opening vote procedure going clockwise around the table. The Republic of Morella casts its votes in favor of nationalization. The Republic of Valgsland casts its votes in favor of nationalization as well. Prime Minister Lespia, being of sound mind, cast his vote against nationalization. It was my turn. Alvarez smiled as Prime Minister Sultana eyed me warily. It's a valid point that in the long run it may be beneficial, but right now, I don't think I'm going to try and get Lespia's share, just because I've got a lot on my plate so far, especially Lespia being involved in the Palais situation. But I'm not going to go for nationalization. I vote in favor of nationalization. I vote against nationalization. However, I'm open to renegotiating our original agreement to recognize the contribution and sacrifice. Yeah, we'll go with the middle one, I'm thinking. Hegel glared at me. Did not expect anything else from you, Mr. Torres. A monarch will never have compassion for the downtrodden. It's not in his nature. Take heart, Comrade Hegel. If the King of Rizia is truly willing to build a fairer and more sustainable ITZ with us, then today was not a total loss. Stalling. But yeah. I turned to look at Alvarez. He had a plastic smile on his face. Yes, I too am willing to work on a new ITZ agreement that takes into account the complaints Prime Minister Sultana has made today. We can all be proud of what we have accomplished in this room today. We should inform our guests of the decision. Let's get back to the reception hall. The Rizian, Valgslandian, and Lespian delegations slowly began filing out of the conference room. Next to me, Elena spoke under her breath. Very good, Your Majesty. Voting against nationalization while not completely dismissing Morella's concerns was the safest choice. This isn't about making the safest choice, it's about doing what's right. I don't mind some gentlemanly negotiations. We can afford it. Clever, wasn't it? Not that I actually intend to give the bitch anything she wants. You'll go with the middle one. Don't go too overboard with your promises. As Alvarez and I stood up, I saw him take another sip from his flask. He noticed my gaze and nodded slightly. So we're making deals with the commies now. No, we're not. I just told Hegel and his puppet what they want to hear. Kinda. This is true also. I'm gonna go with that one. Because I'll tell you right away that I don't intend to lose a damn cent. He stepped past me and out the door. Hegel was still seated. I could feel his eyes boring into me. I leave without acknowledging him, just dust his ass. Or give him a smirk. Hey, bud. He gave me the same mysterious smile as he had before. We walked back onto the stage of the reception hall and awaited Prime Minister Sultana's announcement. Manpower decreased, equipment decreased, trucks decreased, country details updated, Republic of Swordland. That would probably be Anton Rain. See what he looks like in this one. Looks like my first one. Alright, well that was good, I guess. Anything over here? Quite a bit over here. Train some more infantry. All right. Where is it? I'm not seeing anything. Survey shows lack of stable housing affecting birth rate. Okay. Survey among the citizenry of major Rizian cities have shown a direct correlation between falling child birth rates. And we have something to do with the infrastructure? Our gold is safe. King wisely rejects nationalization plan. Rash proposal from the governments of Morella and Valgsland to nationalize the Meftiam the MITZ was wisely shut down by His Majesty King Romus, as well as Lespia's Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez. While the two left-leaning governments claim to be acting in the interest of the Morellan people and the environment, they clearly had a different agenda: to seize our gold mining assets and siphon wealth from our glorious kingdoms. Thankfully, our benevolent king, that's me, saw right through them and shut down the plan before it even had a chance to take root. The rise of second wave total maximum... What the fuck? Xena. Second wave total maximism. MITZ agreement to be renegotiated. Both Rizia and Lespia has voted against the Morellan proposal to nationalize MITZ, splitting the board equally across expected ideological lines, with Valgsland supporting the Morellan position. Despite this, Morellan PM blah blah blah. You can read it if you want. We just went through it. Alright. I did actually read it. I just didn't do it out loud. So, whoops. See what we have to do here. RNC requests election campaign funds. Oh, here it is, right here. Poor state of Rizian transit infrastructure. Experts are warning that due to a lack of investment, Rizia's rail, bus, and tram system are becoming dangerously overloaded. If substantial modernization and expansion efforts are not undertaken soon, the public transportation infrastructure risks not only frequent service disruptions, but also potential safety hazards due to aging fleet. Rizia National Coalition leader Daria Darava seeks financial backing. It's going to cost us our whole budget. He's seeking financial backing from the crown to secure the Royalist Party position against the opposition party. Our decision on funding could sway the election's outcome, shaping the political future of our kingdom. As the House of Delegates election campaign for 1954 begins, the RNC promises to support the monarchy. I'm going to go with moderate campaign funding. I'm not going to completely leave them out to dry because we don't want people to get any funny ideas about getting rid of the king. I'm not seeing anything. Weak power projection. Oh, we had moderate power projection. Measured support for the RNC by the Crown. Crown has chosen a path of moderation, offering balanced financial support to the Rizia National Coalition. This wise decision reflects a commitment to both our political traditions and the prudent use of national resources. That newspaper seems to be my friend. The Rizia National Coalition has formally announced the receipt of election campaign funds from the Crown. In a press release from their headquarters in Porte de Raison, RNC leader Daria Darava expressed gratitude towards the king for financial support. What's this? Whoops, missed it. Meeting on internal security. I'm going to hold off on that one until the next episode here. I think we made the right choice going against nationalization, but still keeping the door open to further talks. Maybe a renegotiation of that. Maybe we could try and get rid of Lespia. that might be the time to do it. I do like the idea of buying out their shares or taking their shares. I just don't know how the process of that would work. So I guess we'll find out more as we go forward. Anyway, if you like this episode, hit the like button. If you wanted to follow along through our playthrough on Rizia in the game Suzerain, hit the subscribe. If you have any thoughts, tips, or advice, leave those in the comment section down below. And we'll meet about our internal security in the next episode. J76NY saying, thank you very much for watching and have yourself a very good day.